Hello, it's Joe here for Joyrider TV. Today we are going to dismantle a Hobie Tiger. Yeah, that's right, let's get on with it. Okay, so we're going to start off by recruiting some help. Who can we find? It's Chubsy from Flying Fish. Flying Fish is a great place if you want to become a sailing instructor. They're based out here in Vasiliki, but also in Australia, but you're better off going here. Okay, so we're going to start off by just releasing the rig tension. So Chubsy's going to take the trapeze wire. He's obviously a bit heavier than I am. He's going to dangle on there for a minute. Okay, so it's a good idea to do this first, especially while you've got help. All right, just don't let go, otherwise this video will be amazing. All right, and we're safe, so you can let go now. Okay, so we're just moving it up to the top hole. And there it is. Tension's off. All right, thanks, man. You can go. You can go about your business.
Thanks, buddy.
Okay. All right, so now that is off, we can start just working around the boat. With this particular boat, we're going to strip it completely, so taking the hulls apart. With some of the other boats, we don't need to take the hulls away from the beams, so we're leaving the trampolines on. Means there's a lot less to do, but here we're going to do the whole thing, so this will be very exciting. So just working around the boat, we'll start off with the spinnaker halyard, and we're actually going to leave the spinnaker halyard on the mast, which isn't something that we would usually do, but we're storing the masts indoors, which means that we can save time by leaving the spinnaker halyard on the mast, and we just want to leave everything as neat as possible. So we're going to tie the shorter end of this off. Just here, the spinnaker cleat makes a good choice. Just going to tie that off there. If we were storing this outdoors, we'd definitely take the spinnaker halyard off, because there's no need to have that exposed to the weather over the winter, because all that will happen is the rope will deteriorate if we were to leave that outside. We'd also pull the main halyard through as well if we were going to leave the boat outdoors. Okay, so there's the spinnaker halyard. We also at this time take the spinnaker sheets off. If we're leaving the trampoline on, we could leave the spinnaker sheets on, but we are taking the trampoline off, so we'll take the spinnaker sheets off. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the spinnaker chute as a storage facility for the ropes that are coming off the boat. This is so that we can avoid losing anything, which can be an issue. So just coiling the rope up there. Everything's already been washed, so it's all salt free. All right, and now we can start to prepare the boat. So again, if we were leaving the trampoline on, I would do this slightly differently. With the trapezes, we would just undo these shackles and leave the trapeze adjustment gear on the trampoline, as we can see here, and that saves a job, and it means there's less on the mast. But because we're taking it all off, we're actually going to leave the trapezes rigged, so we're going to take them off with the shock cord and then attach them to the mast. So there we go, there's one. Here comes number two. Okay, and then the way we're going to attach these is on the front of the mast. So we're going to end up with all the rigging on the front of the mast. Just going to take the downhaul through. And this kills two birds with one stone by pulling the downhaul out and keeping the trapezes tidy, and then we'll do the same on the other side. So somewhere, okay, our trapeze elastic is just caught there, so we just have to untie. It's not in the end, like this. Okay, nearly there. So again, by spending a bit of time at this end while we're taking it apart, it'll mean it's going to be much easier, more straightforward, tidier when we come to put the boat together next year. So I'm just going to pass this line through here, and then down through the cleat here. And what we're wanting to do is pull these blocks all the way up. For a maximum amount of tidiness. And we can then do what we would usually do with the downhaul and tie the ends of these two ropes together with a reef knot, just to make sure that everything's going to stay tidy. We've then got the shock cord here, so I'm going to use the shock cord to tidy up the J and H handles. So I'm just going to bring these up a little bit, pass the shock cord through, and then I'm just going to take this around the mast to help keep that tidy just there. Very nice. And then we just need to tie this off. So it's a bit of improvising required with where you tie stuff off, but as long as you don't go too mad with hundreds of half hitches, then you'll be all right. So that'll be okay, because after we've finished with the mast, we're going to put the whole bottom of the mast section in a bag, just to really make sure that we're not going to lose anything. Okay, next, because we're taking the mast off the boat, we're going to need to detach the downhaul from the takeaway system. So here we go, we'll pull this out from the beam. And the way we've got our takeaway systems organised, here's a tip: put your foot on the shock cord, and that will give you a bit of time to untie it while it's not under load. Yeah, the way we have these organised is so that we can untie them, so it's not spliced, which makes it a bit easier when it comes to taking this off. Okay, and then we're going to tie this elastic off. I'm just going to tie it off onto this block here, just to avoid having to redo it. In fact, we'll go through the middle of that block, just because we haven't quite got the length to go through it. So we're just focusing on putting the boat away, so we have as little as possible to do when we're putting the boat back together. Of course, we'll be replacing a lot of lines, things, when we put the boat back together. All right, so there's the downhaul off that side, so we just need to repeat that on the other side. Whoa, that is tight. Okay, so in fact that is too tight, so we try not to cut anything, but on this occasion we're having to cut that one because that shock cord is past its best, so we are going to have to redo that next year, unfortunately, but it's going to make the boat better. All right, so I'm just taking the spinnaker tack line off the front beam here, so we don't want to leave too much on the front beam because we're taking the boat off completely. So we'll put the tack line for the spinnaker into the chute as well. Again, we're just really trying to make sure that we're not going to lose anything. Okay, there's another one in the bag. Now we'll just have a quick look, see where we are and what we need to do next. Yeah, we've got a bit more tidying to do at the base of the mast, so we don't want to go winding these ropes round and round the mast because it's going to be a bit painful when we have to undo that. So instead we'll coil this up, just coiling them together, and then I'm using this method to make that tidy, and then I'll just tie that onto there with a bowline, so that again, so it's as easy as possible to untie when it comes to it. Okay, so there's the mast pretty tidy. Oh, we've just got the end of the spinnaker halyard here, so we can coil that as well. Because we're putting all this in a bag, means we don't have to be too worried about having too much hanging around here, but we'll coil that and then we'll just tie that off. Again, bit of improvising for where to put things, where to tie things off, sometimes necessary. And there we go. So the mast's looking pretty good there. Next we can take off the boom. Going to take off the mast rotation line. There we go. And then we're just going to take the boom off, which is just on there with a clevis pin. Okay, so we could just do a quick lap of the boat, taking bits off as we go around, just for a bit of job satisfaction, to make it seem like we've done a bit more. So, gonna take off the tiller extension. That's nice and quick. Popping that, leaving the clevis pin back in that part, and I'm just gonna put the bits on this boat so they stay dry for labelling. There we go, we've got the boom off. We'll take off the tiller connecting bar. Some quick progress here, which is nice. And then, seeing as we're at the back of the boat, we'll continue on to taking off the rudder system. So here we've got some tools laid out. What are we going to need? We'll need some pliers, our special rudder tool, a hammer and some grips. With those tools we should be able to tackle this. So we'll just first see if it moves freely, which it does. We'll see which of these rings is in better condition, but they're both in very good condition. So if there was one in worse condition, we take that one out, just in case it does get a little bit stretched as we take it out. I'm just using the pliers here to get this out. These can be a little bit taxing to get out, depending on the style of split ring that you have in here. Once you've got it to there, should be quite easy just to unwind that and he's out. And then this one's pretty easy, we can just pull him out. Well, having said that, it's a little bit tricky, so we'll move on to the pliers. things that can help you get your rudder pin out. So if you move the rudder from side to side, if you have got 2 people to do this, it is a bit easier, because one person can be moving the rudder from side to side while the other person is pulling up. Try to make sure it does stay all lined up, because if it goes out of line, it's going to put more pressure on the rudder pin. Like we said with the Hobie 16, if you've recently serviced your rudders and you don't need the space with the rudder stock off the boat, then maybe it's better to leave this part of the rudder system on the boat and take it off by the blade. So you take the blade off the boat, and then if you are leaving the boat outdoors, perhaps just wrap it in a bit of plastic to keep the weather off it. Okay, and then we're just going to put the rudder pin back in here, and then we're going to put the ring back in here. There we go. So he's all good. We'll pop that on here, ready for labeling. All right, let's do that again. That was so much fun. All right, so we'll just see if this is, so this one is going to be problematic. So what we're going to do is we'll just take the hammer, we'll just give this a little tap up, see if we can keep this in good condition. But it looks like this one has already been manipulated, so we're just going to pull it out like that. And then taking the hammer and our special tool, we're going to do a bit of tappy tappy here. It's not too bad, but the tappy tappy certainly quicker. Again, we'll try not to bash the rudder pin directly with the hammer, because it flattens the end, which if your end's been flattened, it will really make a mess of the bush as it comes through, and you don't want that. All right, so we've reached a point where it's stuck now, so we're going to use some grips. You can use pliers, or if you've got a special tool like this but with a longer shaft, that would be ideal for just knocking it all the way through, but ours, the shaft isn't long enough. So just going to pop the grips on there, and then we can kind of twist and apply downward pressure simultaneously. If you haven't taken your boat apart for a while, this part of the process can be a little bit painful and can take quite some time. So perhaps spray some WD-40 or something similar on the rudder pin, leave it for a bit. That'll make life a bit easier. Or finding something that you can use to bash all the way through. So now we're in, we're going to just go back to our special tool a little bit, attacking from the side. Now he's gone as far as he can, so, and we have actually reached the floor, so we're going to be putting the pin into the floor here a bit. So there we go, all good. Yeah, we've got a bit of mud on the pin, and then we'll just pop him back in. Just going to do a light bit of tappy tappy there, and in it goes. And then we're going to just pop this bit of mangled split ring back in and use the pliers just to kind of twist him round to make sure the pin isn't going to fall out, and then pop him in the labeling department. Of course, if you've just got one boat, which most people would do, you don't have to go labeling everything, but in our situation where we have several boats, good idea, keep everything clearly labeled. Okay, so the last thing we have to do before dropping the mast is take off the bowsprit. I've already taken off most of the tape that's on the boat, so I'm just going to take this last bit of tape off here. Using a knife, and then There's a few different ways that your bowsprit can be attached. The Tiger, all the Tigers after, I believe, 2005 came with a rod like this which will hold them up, but the earlier boats just used a rope, and then the rope is actually better really, because it means that you do have more choice about how high up you're going to have your pole, so you can have it higher or lower. So again, just putting the split ring back in here. Proving to be a bit fiddly, you get used to the fiddle. Okay, and then at this time we can take off the front bridle wires of the pole. The way that this is rigged up, this will obviously be different if it's different, so you just have to see how different that's going to be for you. And then we could see on this particular one, the intermediate pole bridles and this tensioning line is all routed back to the main bridle wires of the boat, so we don't have to do anything with that just now, not until after we've dropped the mast. Whoa, and this split ring is in a real state, so quite lucky that that didn't just come out. There we go. They're just popping in back in, just so we can avoid losing that over the winter. Now, have we got any more ropes that we're going to put in the chute at this stage? Yes, we've just got the capsize righting line, and also on this boat we have got a cover from the chain plate at the front. We'll pop him in, so we'll take the capsize righting line, and then there's also on this one the piece of elastic shock cord which is taking away the spinnaker halyard, so we'll take that off now as well, just so we haven't got many ropes left attached. In fact, we'll put the trampoline lacing in there as well, just really trying to hang on to everything as good as we can. So there we go, in goes the capsize righting line. All right, so also what we could do with doing is removing the self-tacking jib from the spinnaker pole, so I'm just going to need a screwdriver to do that. Quite a small one, which I don't actually have here, so there will be a small journey to get one. We'll try this one, see how we get on there, otherwise we're going to have to go and get a small screwdriver to take that off. Let's have a look. Oh, and he's all right. There we go. You wouldn't have thought so, but the massive screwdriver did work. At this time we can observe any work that needs doing on the boat, like for example on here we can see there's a bit of movement in that fitting, so that's going to need replacing during our winter maintenance service time. Just tying this lot up a bit like that, because this is one bit that is going to stay on here because there's too much to take off if we were to take that off. And then we've also got our jib Cunningham line, which we'll take off, and we're going to coil that up as well, so that's going to stay with the front beam, kind of like this. We'll just tie him off, we'll coil him up, and then we'll tie him on. Lovely. Okay, so that's all done. So we're all good at the front. We can take the bowsprit off here at this time as well. So let's do that. We'll just do as much as we can before we need to recruit help for dropping the mast. With a boat like this, it is definitely necessary to get help for dropping the mast, because it is quite a big, it's a heavy mast for one person. We'll put the pin back in. Well, we'll try to put the pin back in. There we go. All right, and then we've just got this rope which is tying the spinnaker chute up, so we need to take this one off as well. And there we go. And now the bowsprit is literally just being held by the intermediate pole bridles, which will come off when we have dropped the mast. So here we go, that's off there, that's the jib traveller control line. Anything else that is still attached there? No, that's all free. So now we need to recruit some of the heroes from the Wild Wind Sailing Instructional Department. I think I can see some heroes right there. I don't know if any of them have got the time to step in at this juncture. I would really like Pirate Sam to get involved, and there's Fraser as well. He's wearing a Joyrider shirt, so I think he's in there. So the way we're going to do this is Pirate Sam's going to be what I like to call mast foot Mick, and then Fraser can go round the back. So the way we're going to do this is I'm going to get on the trampoline, take the pressure off the mast. Sam's going to come to the front, release the forestay, and then replace the pin back into the original hole. And then after doing that, Sam has got the most important job, which is stopping the mast from jumping off the ball. So I'll start off by pushing the mast forwards. Of course, we released the rig tension earlier with Chubsy from Flying Fish. Now there is a rumour that Sam might have been on the source last night, which is why this might be taking a little while. It's only a rumour though, this rumour has not been confirmed. And then once that's off, we're just going to tuck the forestay in to the shock cord there, just to keep it tidy. With a Tiger you need to twist it through 90 degrees to drop, and then Sam's main job here is making sure that it doesn't jump off the ball, because that could be quite emotional. I'm just walking back. You can use your trapeze wires here if you haven't got the guns to do it this way.
Joe's got the guns.
And then Fraser's taking the strain of the mast, and then we're going to unplug it, twist it back to normal and bring it forwards a little bit. Just there will do. Okay, then we say thank you chaps, nice one. Well, and this is Fraser, he's new to Joyrider TV, but he's obviously one of the team. Okay, so now we can continue to take the rigging off the boat. So I'm taking the rigging off the boat as low down as possible, so that we're leaving as little on the hulls as possible. So there's shroud number one, lefty, because it's on the left side, which we also call the port side. Okay, so there's the left one. There's a lot of things where we have to repeat the process on both sides. And here we go, taking off the other one. So just pulling the cover down after having done that a little bit. This cover's a little bit chewy. All right, so we're not going to worry too much about that, but if it was your boat, it'd be a good idea to to do that. So we can now start taping up the rigging to keep it tidy. If you're going to be putting it on a trailer, you really need to do a good job here, but it's worth doing a good job whatever your situation is. The better job you do here, the less likely it is for things to get tangled. So I've got everything coming down the front of the mast apart from the main halyard, but he's pulled fairly tight, so we don't need to worry about that. And then I'm just doing a full wrap around the rigging as a bundle, and then a wrap, maybe 2 wraps around the whole mast. It's worth going a little bit overboard here, because if the rigging does get pulled when you're moving the mast, it is disappointing to have the rigging in a mess, pulled out. It's going to make everything worse next time you come to put your mast up. So we're just working our way down, pulling it downwards as we go. We can see what a lovely job we're doing there. Hopefully we've got enough tape on this roll to finish the job. There we go. And at this stage I'm just going to take the mast to the side of the boat, just so that we can get to it. There we go, just resting it on the diamond wires. And we'll just pull all this lot to the bottom. And then perhaps before we do any more taping, just going to tidy all this up at the bottom of the mast. We've got this shock cord from the trapezes here, so I'm going to use this. Again, a bit of improvising needed. So do a few wraps like that, and then so that the shrouds aren't hanging out at the bottom, I'm just going to turn those around, making sure we don't put a kink in it, because that kink will weaken the wire. So this is a smooth curve, which is okay. No kinks, please. All right, then we just need to tie this off. Where are we going to do that? We just have to look for something likely. Just looking for something likely here. If you do this with your own boat, you can of course come up with a much tidier solution for all this lot. You could even take, if you wanted to, take the chain plates off the bottom of the shrouds, meaning you've got less stuff at the bottom of your mast. Take it all off. You could do whatever you like, but this is for the convenience of being able to put the mast back up fairly quickly next time we come to do it. So back to the taping. We'll just finish this off. I think our intervals are possibly about, I'm going to say 1.5 meters. If you think this is more or less than 1.5 meters, please do say how much you think it is in the comments section. All right, so getting a bit tight here because I've already tied it off at the bottom. Nice. How much have we got left? All right, super. So we'll take the mast aside now. The balance point for a mast on one of these boats is about, what's that, 0.5 meter above the spreaders. You can take it. It's not too heavy to lift with one person. I'm just going to take this out of the way. And we'll just park that just there. Lovely. Ready for labeling. Okay, next we'll take off the bridle wires, which will mean the pole will be released. Pole's a little bit heavier than normal here because it's got all the ropes in it. Okay, taking him off. Lovely. He is off. Magic. Right, and then we just want to tape the pole up with the with the wires. So I'm just going to take this over to the boat a little bit to make it a bit easier for taping. There we go. And again, same principle as the mast. We don't want any of these wires getting snagged in transit or wherever it's going. So doing a fairly good job here is a good idea, or even a good job. Some might say that the opposite of a good job is a fairly good job. Some might say the opposite of a good job is a bad job. But either way, do it right, do it once. There we go. All right, we'll take that away for labelling, put that on the labelling boat, and then we can set our sights on taking off the trampoline. How much fun will that be? All right. Having talked about doing a good job, we haven't really done a particularly good job there. I think I'm going to need more tape to continue that good job. Right, I can foresee that this lacing is going to be a little bit tricky to untie. Oh, and we were going to put this shock cord in the spinnaker chute. Well done to anybody who spotted that we missed that, having said we were going to do it and we didn't do it, so we're going to do it now. This trampoline will be replaced for next year with a brand new one from OS3 Sales here in Greece, like this grey one on the next Tiger, which is a really nice trampoline. It's got excellent UV resistance and stretch characteristics, very good. And right from new, it's not slippery. You can get trampolines which when they're new are quite slippery. You don't want that. You don't want to feel like you're going to fall off the boat because your trampoline's slippery. You want a trampoline that isn't slippery. All right, so just untying these side tensioning lines. I've got some pliers here which have got a needle nose, which quite good for untying tricky knots. All right, so he's off. Back stuff in the base, which is nice. Okay, so yeah, just take this off here. Of course, leave the trampoline on, but by the time you could leave this one on. It's under a bit of tension, difficult on fire. I'll check. When it's under tension, then all right, go do the same on the other side. Here we go, flying on there, very nice. You want to have to put sides here, just watch this one backwards, and there you'll see some cinematic magic apps. I'll even put this video on backwards after it's finished. Won't that be fun? You can see it both flying together. That's what I've seen that already. I'm sure you got to. And as you can see in these, you have to go through the pain of untying knots if we're allowed to skip to a good bit of the boat. Go back together at rapidly high speed. Yeah, to do it at normal speed would be quite tedious and a bit weird, especially with talking. We back words. Nice, just bring it a little bit tighter. You just need to get a little bit of slack onto him, and then we'll be absolutely flying. Maybe we can speed this up. You can just save the pain of untying knot, which doesn't want to be on the side. This is our first starting point of the whole process, which is bad. Since it's assembled for 6 months now. She's doing very well. Probably been sailed by, works out how many people have sailed this Tiger this year. So the season's been approximately how many weeks? 5 months, 4 months, let's say 20 weeks. It's been 20 weeks very roughly speaking. How many days? Probably a week. Maybe 8 people sailed. So I'll say 260 people have possibly sailed this boat this year. That's a lot of people sailing one boat, but that's 160 very happy sailors. Absolutely not sailed with our superstars running while the instructors here. What a treat for anybody who gets to do such a thing. Here we go. We've almost done that. There we are. Managed it. A little bit of effort required there to get him off. Next, we're going to take off the trampoline racing at the back of the boat. This should be a bit easier, but our needle nose pliers are really coming into their own here in the knot untying department. This is an area which often needs redoing, these trampoline lacing posts, what I like to call nuggets, trampoline lacing nuggets. Over the years they can become a bit loose and wobbly, so it's a good idea to take them out re-rivet them, put in some new ones, because it is quite disastrous if you want to go sailing and you're tightening your trampoline up and one of these bad boys pulls out. Oh my goodness, no sailing for you that day. Or if you are going sailing, it won't be as good as it could have been. For the trampoline here, we're using some Dyneema 3mm, which is very good because it's quite slippery, which means it is quite easy to tighten. So I'm pulling it out completely here. I wouldn't usually do this, but this trampoline is going to be replaced, so we don't want to leave the rope on it. There we go. Let's see if any of these nuggets are loose. No, our nuggets are looking good. We'll just untie this toe strap. Your toe straps might just be stitched onto the trampoline, but if they're not, you'll need to untie that. And then here we're going to take out this lacing post out the back, and that will actually take that rope out automatically. And then to keep track of where this is, I'm gonna, in fact we won't tape it there, we'll tape it up with the boom, the tiller extension and the tiller connecting bar there. All right, so now taking the trampoline lacing, just going to coil him up nicely. And he is going into the spinnaker chute of dreams. This is where the ropes are going to be getting to know each other a little bit better this winter. Okay, so now we've just got a few more bits to untie on the trampoline. These trampoline tie downs. It's very important to have these on and tight because it means you don't have a big gap at the side of the boat. There we go. Number 2. Enter the pliers. Okay. Very nice. We'll be putting these in the spinnaker chute as well. So we'll have a whole collection of ropes. Now here's a rope of a different vintage. Okay, so we're taking him off there. A lot of knots being untied. There we go. So, trampoline is almost ready to come out. So on this vintage of Tiger, we've got an opening in the track on this side. Your opening might be in the middle of the beam if you can't find it. And there we are, trampoline is off. The last thing that we're going to have to do, I'm not going to do this now, is to take this block off the trampoline because we're going to need to put that onto the new one. So that's just bolted through there onto a reinforced part of the trampoline. So there we go, we'll just pop that there. And now we can have a look at taking off the beams. So, going to use the hatch covers as kind of trays to keep the nuts and bolts safe. Oh, she's a tight one. Okay, so we can choose a tool with which we can get that tight one off. We'll go for a bit of this and maybe a bit of this. Let's see how we get on with these tools. What you can do is use your pliers as a little, like that, extra leverage device. And there we go, we didn't need to use a hammer at all. So we don't need that, don't need that. We'll get rid of everything that we don't need. We'll get what we do need, which is 17mm spanner and a 17mm socket. And we'll start off at the back here. These bolts have got 2 nuts on, so the first nut is keeping the boat tight together, and then the second nut is to lock the first one in. So there we go, we've got one. So we're just using the spanner just to undo the first bit. like that, and then should be able to do it just using the fingers. Okay, and then going in with the spanner again to take off the other one. Would have been quite amazing to get in here with a camera into the hull with a light on it so you could see what was going on, but I think there's some things that should stay a mystery. So doing this is more tightening these up than untightening, but it can be quite a good way taking skin off your knuckles if your socket slips off the bolt on the top. Ooh, we have lost some skin over the years whilst doing this, so just applying some downward pressure. That's why I'm holding it in the middle rather than at the end. This is definitely a selling point for a Tornado, where you don't have to go inside the hull to get the nuts off. You just screw it from the top. So we're now going to take the beam off. So I don't know how freely this is going to come off because we do use some sealant to put these on. So sometimes we might need to give the boat a little twist just to break the sealant. So we're just going to go around to the four corners of the boat, just lifting them just to break the sealant there. Just lifting and dropping, easy. And in fact we'll take the front beam off first because it is bigger, so it's nice to still have the back of the boat kind of attached while we're taking this bad boy off. Okay, so this side of the front beams come off quite nicely. So it's another part of the procedure where it might be easier with somebody helping. So what I'm actually going to do is lift this off and lie this hull down. So we have reached a sticky spot here. Where the back of this one doesn't want to quite, there we go. So we'll take this off. We're playing a delicate game here. Is it gonna, yeah, she's okay. So we're taking him aside. And now we can lift here, lower the hull down. And then just take this out so it doesn't damage the hull. And if this is a little bit sticky, what we can actually do is lie the hull down outwards, so then it's going to be more stable. And then we could just double check that we have taken all the nuts off this one. Yeah, all the nuts are off, so it's just going to take a little bit of a wiggle. And in fact, we might have to get our socket and just wind these bolts out a little bit. It's been in here for some time. I believe this boat stayed assembled last winter, so this has actually done 2 winters of being assembled. Hey man. There's Luke running the dogs. So we didn't quite manage to break the tape on this one, the sealant. It's this bolt here which is being a bit sticky, so just going to have to wind him out. Again, another big selling point for the Tornado, where it all goes together and comes apart so easily. There we go. Okay, and that's the final piece. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to put the nuts back onto the bolts so we don't lose them. We'll put the hatches back onto the hulls so we don't lose them. And then we're all there, we're all done. That's it in pieces, just ready for labelling, cleaning and storing. So thanks very much for watching. If you have made it this far, then well done. You've obviously got some time on your hands, or so if you have made it this far, congratulations. Let's have a look at how the boat goes together if we just reverse this process in mega high speed.